What's up, guys? Alright, I really didn't get a whole lot done this week, so we're already back to another one of my Land of Misfit RC uh, episodes. Um, so I dug this one out. This one isn't like super old, but a little backstory on it. So in, I guess, 2017, sort of like kind of late 17, Jason Rona had asked me about if I'd be interested in restoring a couple GTs for him. He had, ones that he had gotten from off of eBay or, whatever. And one was pretty much new, like new in box, but it was like partially built. So that one just had to get finished. And there was like three of them in a big bag, right? And they were torn down and kind of cleaned up already. So like I said, the first one was easy to put together. Second one, the parts were actually like pretty nice. I think I sent the chassis out to have it re-anodized and stuff. So I got two of them done like rather quick. The third one, now you're starting to run into, the parts aren't quite nice, like nice enough for like how nice the truck was becoming. And we had re-anodized that chassis red, and so it took a little longer to get that one done, but we got it done. And so we had this other fourth one like laying around, and there really wasn't enough GT stuff left to we already did three of them, so you need a fourth. But yeah, some of the kind of GT specific stuff was missing. So I had mentioned about, I said, what do you think about doing electric conversion on this last one? And because guys have been doing it for a while, and it's like, why not, right? Something to do, something a little different. So he's like, yeah, let's do that. And being as though mid-motor stuff is allowed to be run at the Vintage Nats, he's like, yeah, we'll get it done, and you can run it at the upcoming Vintage Nats. So that was like June of 2018 that I had started on it. So it was kind of a rush to get it done. Actually, I'll probably use that truck as like the profile pic for this video, and I'll put some pictures at the end so you can see what it looked like completed. So had a chassis anodized blue. We made I made a motor plate at a Kydex, then sent him the chassis with the trans in and the motor plate, and he kind of took that and redesigned it a little bit, gave it like the honeycomb look and all that stuff, and had some made in aluminum. Sent that to me, and then I was able to kind of start going with it. And then, figuring out where to put the battery, and I'd flip the servo over to the other side, kind of more like an RC10 would be, or like the T2 is. And so I made like a battery hold down. I made the standoffs for the battery. Other than that, it was, for the most part, pretty straightforward. Enough for me to get it built and get going, or have it for the race. And but another thing that I had wanted to use on it was, so at the time the T5M high flow body was still like available, because we're talking 8 years ago now. So I had said it's probably like the most modern, or the oldest looking modern body, right? It didn't have like the cab forward, like the roof wasn't forward and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of wanted to use that body on it. So that's what we did. He sent me a couple of those along with it, and then just got everything mocked up. Got the truck built and ran it at the 2018 Vonats. And ideally, or I kind of wish I was a better, like, not that I'm the greatest driver, but I wish I was able to drive then like I did now, or like I do now, because it probably would have done a lot better. It definitely had it in it. But another thing is, I knew the truck was going to be getting used for pictures and stuff once I was done racing it, and it went back to Jconcepts, so I didn't want to like beat the shit out of it. So I kind of took it easy, but it worked really good. Had a lot of fun with it, and so sent it back, and or sent it down to Jconcepts, and then he started kind of redoing like all of the like the stuff that I just kind of made up quick, like the battery post, the standoffs for the battery, was the mount that attached like the front corner of the motor plate to the chassis. He designed, because you'll see it in the pictures I had at the end, I just like fabbed up a Kydex battery hold down, and so he 3D printed one, kind of made it like, took like some of the styling cues from the T2 battery hold down with the ribs and stuff on it. So he kind of took like some cues off of that and made a 3D printed one for this. Unfortunately, I didn't get that stuff yet, and now Shapeways is shut down, so I'm gonna have to talk to Jason about how to go about getting one of those, because I never got one for it. But anyway, so he redesigned all that stuff, and I think he even had the GT tower made, because he was already making the shock towers for the 10T. So I think he made a couple of the rear GT towers just for this project, and then I think he made them available afterwards. So, but I had to. It didn't work. I guess let me just take this out. Might as well just dive into this a little bit. But this was once it was all said and done, he decided to make a couple kits, right, with the body and like the drill template. Bear with me. All right. Alrighty. So that's the T5M high flow body. So like I said, it still has that kind of old school roof line to it. It's not like really cab forward or anything like that. So it's like the oldest looking modern truck body to use. Yeah. So he had made the GT towers for this, and when I was mocking this up using the normal holes, for the body mounts, the two on either side, it was basically bringing the mounts like back in here, and I didn't want the pins all the way back there. So I ended up drilling the two holes in the center and just running a single post towards the front of the chassis, or towards the front, so that it ended up being like right here. So then when he had some done for these kits, he added the holes in them and added a little bit more meat there because it was kind of tight on the prototype one. So yeah, so he had and it has all the normal how the Jconcepts stuff usually is. But, I don't know what you call it. Like the milled out sections and stuff. So as I said, this was what the same as what you could normally get for a 10T. And he had the GT ones done. So this was the motor plate. On the prototype, it was just all silver. There was no anodizer or anything done yet. And then those were the standoffs for the battery posts to cut the battery from going front to back, and then the battery holder or the battery breaks across the top kept it from going side to side. How I had fabbed it up, and there's the block that screwed to the chassis, and then picked up the screw hole down there in the front corner. So yeah, I think if I remember right, there's only like 30 of these kits made, so there's not a whole lot of them. He sent me this one for, doing the original one. Here's the drill template for everything. So I'd been kind of waiting for like the right GT to come along so I could do this. And I kind of figured it would probably be something that I wouldn't race. Because like the following year I built my T2M. So I kind of figured I probably wouldn't really race this one. So I just wanted to build something that was like super nice. And I had a 10T that I was building, blue chassis with all the Jconcepts parts on it. And I was going to do another T2M, like a, super nice, and try and have all three of these kind of this like full on Jconcepts parts and all that. So I'd have the 10T, that T2M, and then this EGT. It's just not happening, basically. But I had picked up a pretty nice all black GT. And I was kind of surprised like how nice the chassis and stuff was. So I was like, and I was surprised with how nice the chassis was compared to the plastics that were on it. So I don't know if, at some point, maybe the chassis got bent or something, and so you put a new chassis and nose plate on it. But the chassis is like really nice. So I was and the nose. So I was gonna send this stuff out and have it anodized blue. But the rest of the parts really weren't nice enough to put on it. So I've been kind of holding off on drilling all the holes and stuff in it. Well, now with the re-release of the GT, at this point, I think I'm just going to get one of the re-release GT kits. Everything will be new. I don't got to piece anything together. At first I thought, well, I'll get the initial one, so like the gold one. I thought that would be cool, to do it in gold. But now they came out with the Richard Saxton one. So I think I may go that route, pick up one of the Saxton kits, and then do the EGT conversion to that. Like I said, the only thing I don't have is that battery hold down. I already have. Well, that was one of the Jconcepts nose plate, but I got the Jconcepts the diamond nose tubes in here. One of the buggy steering bell cranks, What else is in there? I think that's it. Without dumping it all out, I think that's it. But it's pretty much the rest of the stuff I need, because I got the towers are there. The EGT specific stuff is in there, and then I got the bell crank and the nose tubes for the front. Other than that, there's really nothing else I need, other than I could get a set of Jconcepts turnbuckles and that kind of stuff. But yeah, when the time comes, and hopefully, hopefully when I have the money to spend, the availability of the Saxton kits will still be pretty decent. That's my hope. If I have to, like, I know my local hobby shop, they got like a good amount of the gold GTs. So, and I could probably get one of those for a good price eventually, if they sit there long enough. So we'll see how the Saxton one does. If it's starting to seem like, they're going to be gone. And maybe I'll be able to grab one before the price, starts going up on them once they're discontinued or something. So, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I figured I was kind of thinking about, what I wanted to do for this episode of these graveyard cars or builds that is kind of sitting around. But, this one, other than, really, all I got to do is buy a new kit and then put it together. So there's not going to be like a whole lot of, it's not really a big deal with this one. Get a new one, drill the holes in the tub and stuff. And at this point, I'm not really worried about having 3 like similar looking trucks. I'll just build it and be done with it. And who knows? Maybe I'll even use it. I kind of doubt it though, and with a lot of the vintage races are starting to go away from the mid motor stuff, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. But it is nice that if I want to go to the Vonats, I can take my T2M out and have some fun with it, because it doesn't really work that great around the tracks here locally, or local to me, somewhat local to me. Yeah, rear motor just works better. So I just basically stick with my T3 and stuff. But yeah, not to drag this out any longer. But so yeah, so that's this one. I'll see you guys on the next.